Hi, this is Dr. Gregory Sadler. I'm a professor of philosophy and the president and founder of an educational consulting company called Reason.io, where we put philosophy into practice. I've studied and taught philosophy for over 20 years, and I find that many people run into difficulties reading classic philosophical texts. Sometimes it's the way things are said or how the text is structured. But the concepts themselves are not always that complicated, and that's where I come in. To help students and lifelong learners, I've been producing longer lecture videos and posting them to YouTube. Many viewers say they find them useful. What you're currently watching is part of a new series of shorter videos, each of them focused on one core concept from an important philosophical text. I hope you find it useful as well. Musonius Rufus's third lecture is titled That Women Too Should Study Philosophy in the English translation, and that should study philosophy. It's not a bad translation, but it does leave an aspect out, which I think comes very clear in what Musonius says in the actual discourse, which is that it is philosopheteon, meaning that women should not just study philosophy, they should philosophize, meaning they should engage in the activity of philosophy. And this is kind of a radical stance that he's taking within the culture of his own time. We'll actually see him talking about one of the objections that could be made. And somebody asked him if women should also study philosophy, so it's a live question. And he said the following: women as well as men have received from the gods the gift of reason, logos. So what does that allow us? So part of that is how we deal with chrometha, how we engage in our conduct with other people. And then there's also the aspect of making judgments, dianometha, right? Literally using our intellects in a certain way. And about what? So he says, well, we judge whether a thing is good or bad, or right or wrong, literally just or unjust. And he says men and women have the same capacity to do that. Also, women have the same senses, the same perception, aestheses, right? And they have the same parts of the body. Now you might say, well, wait a second, male and female parts are quite different from each other. And, clearly Musonius doesn't think that that's particularly relevant here. They both have arms, they both have legs, they both have the same, organs otherwise, right? And then most importantly, he's going to say, now it's translated here as men, not men alone, but women too, have a natural inclination towards virtue and the capacity for acquiring it, which is a rather loose translation, because what the Greek actually says is that both men and women have desire, orexis. That could be translated as inclination towards virtue, pros arretein. And then a very interesting word being used here that, we could translate as capacity, but also affinity. They identify it as something that is proper to them. Oikeiosis. Now, if you know anything about Stoic philosophy, you know that this is a term that gets used in other contexts, and it's often translated as like affiliation. So we're, by nature, designed to move ourselves towards to the virtues. So it's not just a capacity, it's something a bit more active than that. The last thing that he brings up is that both men and women are pleased by good and just actions, and they reject the opposites of these, right? So he says, if this is true, and he does think these are true, well, why would you say that men should seek out, should search for, and consider how they can lead good lives? That's what philosophy is about. But women shouldn't do that. That's kind of silly, isn't it? So he's going to use a couple words here that I also wanted to call attention to. So in the translation, he says, could it be that it's fitting for men to be good, but not for women? So fitting there, proseke. This is the word that in other contexts we would translate as appropriate or an obligation or a duty or, the right sort of action. Also, suitable is used there. Let's examine in detail the qualities which are suitable for a woman. Well, that suitable is ton prosekon ton, same term as proseke, right? So en hekastos ton prosekon ton. What are the qualities that are suitable in a woman, and actually in a man, for pursuing the good life, which is going to come from philosophy? So, what are those qualities or characteristics? It turns out they are what we call the cardinal virtues, which the Stoics recognized and then talked about as divided into or leading into a whole bunch of subordinate virtues, some of which Musonius is going to reference here. So we've got prudence, temperance, justice, and courage. Now, prudence isn't named as such, sophrosune, but it's actually phronesis, rather. Sophrosune is temperance. But what he's talking about here clearly connects with it. He says that a woman should be a good housekeeper, literally economic, right? Oikonomike. And that doesn't mean that she's a good housekeeper like she cleans and cooks and stuff like that. It means she manages the household. She uses her intellect to figure out how things should go, right? So this means being an accountant of everything that pertains to the welfare of the house, capable of directing the household slaves or servants. And Musonius says, well, that would be what a woman who studies philosophy is going to be good at. Why? Because philosophy is knowledge of life, right? And each of these is a part of life. So philosophy is episteme peri bion, knowledge about how you ought to live, how to conduct yourself. So she's going to have prudence. Where is she going to get it from? Well, philosophy. Then we move on to temperance. And here I have to note that the English translation tends to be a little stuffy and fastidious and undermine the point that Musonius is making here, because it'll say, a woman must be chaste and self-controlled. Well, the term there is not chaste or pure or anything like that. Self-controlled. It's actually she needs to be temperate. She needs sophrosune, right? And she needs the same virtue as a man does. Chaste is just like an extra term being thrown in there, which pertains to some of the qualifications here. What does that look like? Pure or clean is a better way to translate it. In respect of unlawful, now it says unlawful love, it literally means unlawful sexual matters, aphrodisia, right? Exercise restraint in other pleasures, not be a slave to desire, not be contentious, not lavish in expense, nor extravagant in dress. So exercising some self-control in these sorts of things. Also, in the emotions. He says that this woman would be able to control temper, literally anger, orge, not be overcome by grief or pain or anguish, to be superior to uncontrolled emotion of every kind. And then there's also this notion of being well-ordered, kosmiotatos, right? That term, kosmiotes is one of the subordinate virtues of temperance for the Stoics. And Musonius is going to affirm, guess what? Men and women need this equally. This is not a woman's virtue over here, being chaste and modest and all that. No, that holds for everybody. So that's important. Then he talks about justice. Dikaiosune, being dikaion. Would not the woman who studies philosophy be just? Would they not be a good life partner? Would they not be a sympathetic, literally of the same mind, helpmate? Would they not be an untiring defender of husband and children? And would they not be free of, this is very important for justice, greed and arrogance, right? So this is stuff that philosophy would equip a woman to be able to do, again, just as much as a man, and they would have the right view on wrongs. This is a very Socratic point of view that they would be disposed to look on doing a wrong as worse than suffering one, and to regard being beaten as better than gaining an unjust advantage. The last thing that he brings up, loving one's children more than life itself, right? So now we've got 3 cardinal virtues being supplied by philosophy. Then we get courage. Women, now this is a very interesting one, right? Because oftentimes when virtues are being gendered, courage isn't really for women, it's really for men. The very name of it, Andrea, comes from aner, which means man. And Musonius is like, come on. Women need to be courageous just as much as men do, and they have the capacity for it just as much. So don't try all this silly, traditional gender roles kind of stuff. He says that, they would be courageous. They would not submit to anything shameful for fear of death, right? So fear or unwillingness to face hardship. That is an important part of courage for the Stoics. It's not all about fear. It's also about dealing with things that you don't feel like dealing with, right? Also, she wouldn't be intimidated by anyone because they're of noble birth or powerful or wealthy, not even if they're a tyrant, because they are high-minded. High-mindedness, magnanimity, also part of courage for the Stoics. She would be high-minded, not think of death as an evil and life as a good, and most importantly here, another key part of Stoic philosophy having to do with courage, she would not shun hardship and would not seek ease and indolence. Such a woman is likely to be energetic, strong to endure pain, prepared to nourish her children at her own breast, and to serve her husband with her own hands. This is something really important for Musonius. And again, kind of radical. Willing to do things which some would consider no better than slaves' work, right? So, and again, pertains to both men and women. Musonius thinks that if you can't actually take care of yourself, there's something wrong with you. And if you've got others dependent on you, you take care of those. That's part of courage. So we see that, according to Musonius, any good woman, because they are a good person, is going to need philosophy to help them figure out what these cardinal virtues are and how to practice them. Now, he deals with an objection, which is probably coming from some people's experience. Some people might say, listen, women who associate with philosophers, they don't turn out the way that you're talking about. They're arrogant and presumptuous. They abandon their own households. They turn to the company of men. What do they occupy themselves with? Speeches. They talk like sophists. They analyze syllogisms when they should be doing their job at home. And Musonius says, okay. What kind of philosophy are they actually studying? Are they studying philosophy as sort of an academic subject? Well, men are no good when they do that too, right? So philosophy, he says, should in fact be practical. I wouldn't expect the women who study philosophy to shirk their appointed tasks for mere talk any more than men. Discussions ought to be conducted for the sake of their practical application. He says, just like with medicine, you can study medicine if you want, but if you can't actually apply it to the body, that study's not much use, right? If a philosopher has or teaches reason, it's of no use if it does not contribute to the virtue of a person's soul, right? And so he says, consider the kind of philosophy that we're actually talking about here. Would the study which presents modesty or shame as the greatest good make people presumptuous? Would the study which is a guide to temperance accustom people to live heedlessly? If what sets forth intemperance as the greatest evil doesn't teach self-control, if what represents the management of a household as an actual virtue does not lead people to manage their homes well, right? And the teachings of philosophy exhort a woman to be content with their lot and to work with their own hands. So if you've got the right kind of philosophy, then that objection doesn't really matter. The fact that other people are doing philosophy in a kind of silly way doesn't go against the fact that men and women have the same capacities, so they need the same cardinal virtues.